Well, hello everyone. I am Wilson Cole and Allie Cole, which is my lovely daughter and our brand manager here at ELOC, which is our parent company for Adams, Evans, and Ross Backdoor Hire in Recruiting and Staffing Solutions Media. How are you doing, Allie?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Now, Allie had told me prior to this that she is fighting a little bit of a cold. So I am glad that we are in two separate locations because if anybody knows me, I'm a germaphobe. So if she's got a cold, I would have told her to stay out of my office anyway. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, is, as I have kind of gone through and working more with our brand manager, which is Allie, our lead generation team, and things on those lines, I'm kind of like an old dog trying to learn new tricks. But midway through it, I realized that I'm not really trying to learn a new trick. Everybody talks about, you hear funnels, you hear lead generation, you hear, the step-by-step process. Everybody's using LinkedIn versus telemarketing, blogs versus, other things. And to an old guy, that's kind of intimidating now. But I made the realization back a few months ago that the message is the same, and the media has changed, but the media has also there's almost an evolution. One of the things that and everybody that knows me with Recruiting and Staffing Solutions magazine, they've seen my articles with Adams, Evans, and Ross. And that helped get our message out and position us as experts in the industry 15 years ago. I had people that would actually come up to me and ask me to sign, the magazine, which was kind of weird. I never had anyone, and they still do it occasionally, not as often. But I never had anybody want me to sign a piece of our sales literature. But where now that kind of transferred from magazines to newsletters to now blogs and social media and things on those lines. One of the things, and if anybody has if you've been in the industry 20 years or longer, you probably have received at some point one of these insanely long emails from me, a decade or two ago that kind of walks you through our process, what you could expect, how we risked where we would risk all of your risk. We would work for free, and in fact, we'd even go a step further, and that guarantee still stands today. If there is something that we cannot collect, that you get collected at a later date without having to sue them, we'd even pay the collection fees on it. So not only are we working for free, we're saying if you give us first shot and then somebody else collects it, we'll even cover your fees on it. But one thing, if you have ever received the sales letter, in the old days, they used to tell us that sales letters or brochures were salesmanship in print. And everybody talked about the long letters, and they said, does it need to be that long, or whatever? And it's like, if you went into a sales presentation, and the argument back in the day was, if you went into a sales presentation, would you stop talking after a couple of sentences? And it's no. So you did the sales letter not for the people that wouldn't go through the 5-page sales letter. You wrote it for the people that would sit there and read it, get reassured, or whatever. So long sales letters, to a large extent, are dead. They still probably work. We probably send out our own. But the replacement for the new sales letter, in my opinion, is the landing page and the front side of a funnel. And so as I'm looking at these new methods to market, it's just a new media to break down, and the message is still the same. So Allie, with that long sales letter, now we're turning it into a funnel. We're turning it into a series of landing pages. You guys have got the data over on the marketing team. Tell me why that front of the funnel and those landing pages are better than the long sales letters.
Well, you just break it into bite-sized pieces. And there's been a lot of research into this type of thing. If you think about TED Talks, they do not exceed 20 minutes because that's how long our attention span is. And that's something that we're really interested in. So now make that a sales letter. You might be interested, but that's pretty dense material. So you want to make it really easy for your consumers to understand it. Because I know, at least for me, if I see a huge block of text, even if I'm pretty interested in it, that's probably going to get pushed to the back burner versus how can you sell me right now? And having something short and sweet to the point. And again, this goes back to remarketing of you want to have it step by step. You don't want to send a super long message to someone that you're just kind of starting to get to know. Again, with the dating analogy of you don't want to be the person to write the 20-page text message to the person you just went on the first date with. It's the same sort of idea with sales letters of you want to send that reminder. You just want to keep the material short and sweet so they'll actually look at it. And you can still have the same information, but put it in a funnel. Think about the sales cycle of your client and what part of the sales cycle are they on? Are they a returning client that is interested in you and just needs to be reminded of your services? Or are they a brand new client and you need to explain exactly who and what you are, and you need to explain yourself before you can explain how you can help them? So just think about who you're talking to, and then from there, how you can give them the right funnel to really walk them through that whole entire process.
Okay. So, and that's one thing, and I whenever I'm about to say this, I'm showing my age, but I think that a lot of folks that are on these podcasts, a lot of them are going to be your age, and this may be remedial. A lot of the older folks, myself included, need to kind of understand how things have evolved. And I also think, though, that something that your generation can learn a lot on is you guys are great with the funnels. It's a better process. We were better, in my opinion, at writing copy that sold. So if you can take copy that walks them through it, but put it into that funnel, it is a more, instead of the daunting task of reading a 5-page sales letter, it becomes just where they can click on this link and it kind of walks them through it. Also, we use technology here to where if you land on our funnel, we can tell if you've been here before. If you've been here before, you're going to get a series of follow-up emails or maybe even Facebook messages that are slightly different than if somebody showed up just for the first time. And so if you want to increase your sales with very little work, in my opinion, is go back and look at that great sales letter that you used back in 1998 or even 2005, maybe even 2010. But would your recommendation be to break that sales letter into kind of parts and have that be the funnel where they land on the landing page? Maybe it's the second page, maybe it's parts of the email follow-up. Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely. If you have a sales letter that works, keep that material, because if it's worked in the past, I mean, the core of your business, the purpose of what you do is still the same for the most part. It might have changed slightly, but it's not going to be completely different. So maybe break up about us and have that be the first landing page is like the opening, like, of the first sales letter. And then you can dive more deeply into the body of the sales letter from there and break that up into different chunks. And you can really get detail oriented into what the person needs. If they seem like they're clicking on more of a certain type of service that you offer, you probably need to target them with that service rather than all the other wonderful things that you offer. That seems like what they're most interested in.
That's a good point. And that's been one of, when everybody hears funnel, they say, well, I don't need a landing page or I don't need a funnel because I already have a website. And the best argument is if somebody clicks on a link and they go to your website, then they have to search for all the crap that they wanted. where if you have an email that is sent out with the understanding that it was going to come back to your landing page on the front part of that email, then it's going to talk to the ones that were specifically interested in that email, in that offer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you can really break it down to even less material. So that 5-page sales letter, you really only need to focus on those 2 pages. So you can really cut down the information and really cut down the work that your client has to do to decide that they want to work with you. Because the goal is to make it as easy as possible for them to make that decision.
Well, see, and I agree with you 100% on that. And I think, and this is where the old and the new kind of mix. Is I agree with you, but there's going to be some that are going to need more reassurances. And where, in the old days when we'd write a sales letter, you'd put PS or PPPS, PPPPPS, and you would go kind of reiterate the most important things. Like, our risk of not only were we going to work for free, but we'll even cover your cost if somebody does something that we didn't. That can be mentioned maybe, or just kind of a little text, but maybe that's something to where in a day or two they get a follow-up email, or as we've talked in some of the other podcasts, where they get a remarketing banner that basically says we'll collect it or we'll pay for the other people to, if they're successful. You start using that PS in that longer sales letter, that reassuring part, maybe on some of your remarketing or email follow-up. Is that a safe?
Absolutely. There are a lot of websites that you can go and visit, and if you put something in your cart and then walk away from it, you'll see that same pair of yoga pants or purse pop up on your news feed where it's 15% off or whatever incentive they give you, just to give you that little bit of a nudge. And you can do that same type of idea where you're just nudging them along, whether it's a offer or whether it's a offer more information. It doesn't even have to be where you take off the price, to really push them over the edge and have them say, yes, we want to work with you.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, if anybody wants to work with our marketing team over there, of course, I drink the same Kool-Aid. Allie and them do all of our marketing, all of our funnels, and I can tell you, we are a 27-year-old company that have been around in this staffing and recruiting industry for decades. Last year, we had a 35% growth rate. And so when you're starting out having a 35% growth rate, that's easy to do when you're starting out at zero. But when you're doing multi-million dollars, getting a 35% increase, it takes a new way of thinking. So if you want to work with Allie and her team on developing and building a funnel for you and your business with all the different remarketing attached, the emails attached, you can email Allie at elocglobal.com. That's the parent company, which ELOC is just Cole spelled backwards. I fortunately or unfortunately own it all, but it's the parent company that we use for Adams, Evans, and Ross and Recruiting, Staffing Solutions Media. But if you want Allie and them to do funnels for you, give her a shout, shoot her an email, or set up a meeting over at rssm.biz and request a meeting, and she can walk you through one of our funnel packages going forward. Allie, as always, it's informative, a kind of a little bit of old school and new school, but I will say this. I read an article to where the average attention span of an adult is now down to 7 seconds. Before the phone rings, before something happens, we've got 7 seconds of focus. So understanding that method of sellology is crucial in it. But the more unique thing is the average goldfish has an 8-second attention span. So we have now evolved to where we have less of an attention span than the normal goldfish. So anyway, thank you guys. Allie, I appreciate you joining me on this edition of Marketing Minutes, and we'll see you next week.